Okay, boys and girls, welcome back to Chapter 7, Volcanoes. And for Section 1, I think this discussion is going to be a review for you. So just kind of bear with us and try to review some of the types of volcanoes along with your essential questions. Now, all of this information starting with question number 23, and hopefully most of you have completed these questions. Either way, we're going to kind of go over the characteristics of different types of volcanoes. So the first one is the shield volcano, and it gets its name because it's relatively flat, kind of shaped like a shield. And the reason it gets that flat shape is because the lava that comes out of this particular type of volcano is very low silica. It's very hot and it's very, very runny. So it spills and it travels very, very quickly as it spreads, as it leaves the volcano. So again, if you look in this middle bullet right here, it says it's mostly basaltic, low viscosity, runny lava, and the lava even pours out far from the central vent. And you can see this is a great diagram of a shield volcano. This would be kind of like the Hawaiian Island volcanoes, relatively flat, and it comes from this very liquid-like magma or lava that you've seen in class in some of the videos I've shown you, and it kind of spreads out and makes almost this like pancake pattern type of volcano. So that's a picture of a lava flow from Kilauea, our most active volcano, and it's definitely most active shield volcano. And it's been erupting consistently on and off since 1983. It's not like it's erupting constantly, but it has been erupting since 1983, and it makes up one of the volcanoes of the Big Island. And we talked about Hawaii a little bit in the first part of Chapter 7, and you could see every square inch of the Big Island is made up of either an active or dormant volcano, and that's the island that currently sits over the hotspot, but as you know from class, it's slowly drifting off of the hotspot. And that's Mauna Kea in Hawaii. It's actually another shield volcano, and it's the actual tallest mountain on Earth if you give it credit, measuring it all the way down to the sea floor. And that's Olympus Mons. That's the largest volcano in our solar system. It's on Mars. It is also a shield volcano. And if you look at the size comparison, you see Olympus Mons, how much bigger it is than Mount Everest. And you see Mauna Kea is just slightly larger than Mount Everest, but if you look at the blue portion, that's the amount that Mauna Kea is below water, and that reaches down to the ocean floor. So that's why we still say Mount Everest is the tallest, because it is the tallest above sea level. Shield volcanoes. Which choice makes the most sense? Right there, and that's going to be B. Erupts thin, runny lava that could flow for miles. And the largest shield volcano we just said is Olympus Mons. Cinder cones, they're relatively small. They appear next to other volcanoes or alongside other volcanoes. And the most famous one is called Paracutin. It is a huge cinder cone volcano. You don't hear much about cinder cones, and in the video Volcanoes 101, they don't even mention cinder cones. They usually just sort of exist alongside other volcanoes. And they're usually less than 1,000 feet tall. And they get their characteristics from being able to shoot pyroclastic flow straight up into the air, and usually it falls down very close by, making this very, very steep type of cone. And that's Paracutin, the most famous one in Mexico. Most cinder cones are not this large. This one is almost 10,000 feet, which is very, very big for a cinder cone volcano. It hasn't erupted since 1952, but scientists think it can erupt again. Here's more pictures of it. You can see that it's made of mostly ash. Pu'u'o'o is actually a cinder cone that sits in the summit of Kilauea. It's very active. It's an interesting little volcano that's actually part of Kilauea. Cinder cone volcanoes. The answer is mostly pyroclastic flow. Composite volcanoes. These are the most famous volcanoes. You often hear them called stratovolcanoes as well. They alternate between quiet and explosive eruptions. One of the more famous ones is Mount Vesuvius. Killed 16,000 people in Pompeii and Herculaneum. And you can see this is your typical cone-shaped mountain. When the eruptions are bad, they're very, very bad. They're very high silica, usually found in subduction zones. Some of your most famous volcanoes are composite volcanoes. They're the ones that when they erupt, they can produce a lot of pyroclastic flow. They can cause a lot of damage with flooding, avalanches, mudslides, you name it. So very, very common at subduction zones where you get remelted continental crust, very, very silica rich, very, very thick magma. And you remember the deal from before. We talked about this. High viscosity blocks the vent, pressure builds, and you know what can happen next. So you get alternation between quiet and explosive eruption. So you have your longest lava.